Hello, everyone. It's me, Chelsea Mike Shustak from the Too Many Guys Soccer Show, here with an FA Cup review short. Just to remember that, like this short, the Too Many Guys Soccer Show is available on YouTube. So please like and subscribe, and you can also find us wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And you should like and subscribe the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. Why is that? Because yes, we call our show the worst 120 minutes of soccer content anywhere. But sometimes, moments of brilliance come from these minds. And you know what? Last week they did. Last week on this very show, on these shorts, I pretty much called the FA Cup semifinals. And if not for a last-minute City goal, I would have even gotten the scores exactly right. But before we make this go viral, remember, this will be the worst 10 minutes of soccer content you will see today. Believe me, you don't want to gamble on any of these predictions I'm making. Seriously, guys, we all get lucky sometimes. And I got pretty lucky this week. For an example of that, let's take a look at the Liverpool Man City match. So, going through the gameplay, Ibrahima Konate opened the scoring in the match in the 9th minute. He beat former Chelsea man Nathan Ake to a corner that was slung in high, drilling a header across net into the left corner. Less than 10 minutes later, American goalie Zach Steffen, starting in his normal cup role for City, for reasons unbeknownst to anyone who watched that game at all, held the ball for what seemed like forever, while Sadio Mane crashed down on the keeper. Mane slid through the ball, pushed it into the goal, and that made the score 2-0. Just before halftime, the City defense were at 6s and 7s in the back. Liverpool worked their way back and forth around the box, eventually finding Mane again, and he took an excellent volley, put it in the net, and sent Liverpool into the break up 3-0. In the second half, City settled in defensively. And then they struck early when Jack Grealish found the back of the net. That made it 3-1. And that's how I predicted the game would end. And it looked like it was going to until the 90th minute +1, when a City player drove to the end line, drew out Alisson, who failed to stop the cross coming through. Bernardo Silva finished for the late win. City had all the momentum at that point, but it came too late. So the final score settled in at 3-2. So let's take a minute to just break down what went wrong for City. First off, we know they had some injury issues coming to the game. But as I mentioned in the preview show, a tricky injury situation for a big game is just license for Pep Guardiola to overthink his lineup. And this was particularly problematic at the beginning of the match, when Nathan Ake, a defender who has exceptional talent, but has only made 8 starts in the Premier League this year, was beaten to a spot by Ibrahima Konate. And the defensive decisions that Pep made were beyond questionable. Now, okay, Kyle Walker wasn't available, but you had Ruben Diaz on the bench, who was ostensibly ready and who you're talking about should be ready for this. And then you had Eric Laporte, and he didn't play either. And this is the FA Cup semifinal. You know, you need your big guys out there. And then there's Zach Steffen, who used to look like the next Tim Howard, who might not even make the U.S. roster going to Qatar, who made a mistake as a goaltender that I once made when I was 13 years old. And the coach never said anything to me. He just took me out of the game. And I swear, he didn't talk to me for the rest of the match. And it was clear. I'm so mad that I don't need to talk to you. And if you ever do anything like that, you're not playing again. I learned that at 13. Credit Mane for his persistence. Credit Liverpool for the system that they play. But what was Zach Steffen doing there? You know, it all goes to the fact that, like our friend Mike on the main podcast says, Pep never has a plan B. And that was evident in this game. He only used one substitute. And the fact that Jack Grealish, as the roaming link-up player for them, wasn't linking anything. And yet, with Ilkay Gundogan and KDB on the bench, Kevin De Bruyne, there wasn't an opportunity there for him to come in the last 10 minutes. It's almost enough to make you wonder if Pep really ever seriously thought he was going to win this match at all. To Liverpool's credit, they did attack the match with all of the gusto that Jurgen Klopp said they would in the lead-up. They rolled out almost all of their regular starters with Alisson in goal, and they took full advantage of the defensive mistakes that were made by a potentially mislaid out City. And the pressure that they put on in their Liverpool style made all the difference in a game that ended up 3-2. You can argue that Zach Steffen's goal cost City a chance at the title. You can give City credit too. Their drive brought them back into the game. But again, one can only wonder if that was Pep's best 11. And if it wasn't, how different might this City have gone for City? All right, let's move on to the other match that we had this weekend. We had Chelsea taking on Crystal Palace, who are also at Wembley. And we've talked on the show a lot, and we've praised the managerial prowess of Patrick Vieira this year. And I think credit, once again, is due here. Chelsea did line up in their 3-4-3, which I beg them for. But Palace rolled out a 3-5-2. And in the first half, they were really frustrating Chelsea's offensive lane. And Chelsea didn't really make much. Now, Koyate for Palace had probably the best opportunity of the first half. He forced a very meaningful save out of Edouard Mendy. But you can argue that the most meaningful moment of the first half was in the 32nd minute when Mateo Kovacic was forced to yield through injury to Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Palace's D was stingy the entire time. But Chelsea had clearly begun to figure out their way through the 9 men that Palace had amassed in the box. And they finally got the breakthrough through Loftus-Cheek, who lined up a half volley through a crowd and sent an absolute laser past Jack Butland into the Palace goal. From then on, the play got more open, which only helped Chelsea more. They had the balance of the opportunities, and Mason Mount settled the victory in the 76th minute, putting another one in. Now, I very accurately predicted that Palace would play to Chelsea's high level, and I called the score exactly right, 2-0, but I should have been wrong. Romelu Lukaku, who's out of form at present and barely playing, couldn't find the net after Timo Werner, who created a number of really excellent opportunities throughout the match, and in fact was named the man of the match, slipped an absolutely fantastic pass through to the Belgian, who turned it then onto the post. It's a shame for a guy who really needs some momentum in his play, and he's just such a long way off from last summer's exceptional form. The difference for this match for Chelsea was the play of their misfits. Timo Werner, who's felt the entire time he's been in England that the English game was too much for him, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who around the turn of this year, you might have been forgiven for not even recalling that he was still on the team. They were major players in this. And credit to Timo. Timo's got to have heard what we've been saying about him for the entire time he's been here. And you've got to figure he probably doesn't want to be an enormous failure to a gigantic worldwide fan base. So credit to him for making a difference. And in fact, you can compare that to his strike partner, Romelu Lukaku, who, when the chips are down, now seems like he would want to play anywhere else that isn't Chelsea. Loftus-Cheek, too, is a man left for dead. He was a guy who used to play for the English national team. And he only looked average at best, maybe even indifferent at worst, playing last year on loan at Fulham. And he's been through a tough year. He had the coronavirus. But recently, he's been playing very well. He earned an 8 and a 7 in his last two appearances in the ratings. And he looked really solid against Madrid and, of course, in the thrashing of Southampton. It's a credit to Chelsea for not giving up on him. They've got enough talent around that they don't really need him. And honestly, they've sold worse players who weren't performing at different times quicker than they sold Loftus-Cheek. But right now, Loftus-Cheek is finding space on the Chelsea right, and he's being productive with that space. So credit to you, Ruben. Good for you for fighting through everything and coming up on top. All right, so in sum, I was pretty much just completely right about everything. And again, you should subscribe to us for the genius insights that we get right 1 out of every 2,000 times any of us here at the Too Many Guys Soccer Show issues a prediction. This week, rather than tearing us down, maybe you could leave a comment below like, hey, good job, dude, or sweet, I'm so happy that you're in my life. Also, you're very pretty. I don't know. Let's keep things positive. There's so much bad stuff going on out there in the world. Football is joy. So anyway, that's it for me, Mike Shostak, here with the Too Many Guys Soccer Show, signing off. And of course, as always, we'll try to do better next time.